Hi everybody, it's Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus from Threshold of Hineni, and I have all kinds of stuff all over my desk because I'm going to have fun. I was making that random act of kindness, and I can't leave it. I have to add some things. What I want to add is some things that she can use for, materials that she can use for making junk journals herself. So I thought I have several, what are these called? Cones of yarn that I had my husband bring home previously. And so I thought that I would wrap some on here for her to use just however she wants. And so I'm going to start with some orange. And I've got several colors. I don't have all the yarns that he has, obviously. We have a 4-car garage up in the mountains. And he seriously has like 3/4 of that filled with boxes of yarn stacked on top of each other. He has literally tons of yarn. And so, seriously, girls, if your husbands ever complain about you having too much yarn, just send them my way. My husband is the one with all the yarn, and it's really fun. And he says, use as much as I want. And, and we've even talked about, because he's 78 years old, and so he's slowing down. He's not knitting as much. And when he knits, he combines several strands of this. You call it ends. He combines several ends of this. For some reason, this is all tangled up on the outside, so I'm having kind of a hard time getting it. So he combines several ends of it. He doesn't, it's not thick knitting like you get when you're hand knitting. It's, he uses, he uses vintage knitting machines, hand operated vintage knitting machines. And one of them is from the 1890s, from a school sweater shop in, I think it's the Bronx that it was in, someplace in New York. Being a California girl, I don't know all the different places in New York very well. And anyway, so he operates those all by hand. It takes a lot of strength, and it's not that he's not strong enough. He's pretty strong. But he's getting kind of tired, and it's time for him to start thinking about retiring. And so we've actually talked about like having me offer some of these yarns on my Etsy shop. I'm not really sure how I would do it, because I can't imagine anybody using a whole cone of one of these things, but maybe like wrapped up like this or something. I don't know. If you're interested, let me know how you would want to do it, because I think it'd be more fun to receive like a whole variety of yarns rather than just a big huge cone of it. And one of these cones is I don't know, $20-$40. They're expensive, and you could never possibly use all of this probably in your lifetime, although this one is my favorite, and I do use it a lot. It's very, very soft. It's linen and rayon, the shiny stuff that's wrapped around it. I don't know if you can see it, and it's like it gets wide and then it gets narrow. It's really cool. And it's like kind of goldish, brownish. It's natural, I guess, is what you would call the color. I don't know if it's actually the natural color. Does rayon have a natural color? Linen does. It's probably the natural color of the linen. And I'm sorry, these are like all tangled up on the outsides of the cones for some reason. So he's got like a ton of this, so I'm thinking I may try to find some way to offer it to people for sale in my shop. So she's going to get a bunch of it for free, which I think will be fun. I use this for putting just as trim on things. I use it all different ways. I use it as like tassels on my, oh, that's lovely, tassels on my cards, or I sew it, like I'll just put it in like a random design on the edge of a page and sew it, and it just adds a really cool softness to it, which is really neat. Okay, let's so yeah, so anyway, so I'm just gonna give her some of each of the colors that I have here at home. Most of the ones that I have at home are cotton because I am very, very sensitive to wool. And so I just can't use wool. Now this one is Spacedyed, I think. And I'm not exactly sure what that means. I know that heathered, but this is not heathered, I don't think. Heathered is what they do with wool sometimes, and they take like a whole bunch of different colors that maybe are like similar to each other, maybe not, and they put them all in a room, all the fibers, and they blow them around so that you get like this random mixture of them, and then they spin it into the yarn, and it just gives this look on a sweater that looks really textured and really pretty. Okay, so this is like, it's yarn, but it's more the thickness of thread. Okay, so this would be really good for like messy thread projects and stuff. It'd be really cool for that. Okay, what else do I have? I have some fuchsia. Let's do some of that because that's always fun. Let's put that over here by the green. Let's try to kind of contrast things here. Oh, I'm getting the wrong end. Let's get the end that we can actually pull off of. And let's cut that off. Okay, so this is also cotton. I think that all I'm going to be working with here is cotton because I'm pretty sure that I asked him to only bring me cotton because that's all I want to work with. So for like a thick sweater, he would put, I think, like about 8 ends of this together, and he has like this thing that spins them all together, or sometimes he has all the separate cones sitting there on his knitting machine, and they go through these things just like threading a sewing machine, really, to give him the right tension and everything. And then when he's knitting a design, or what's called intarsia, there's a little knot there, sorry. What's called intarsia, which is where he actually knits a picture into the sweater, which is really fun. Then, you know, he has to like hand move all those stitches and everything. And it's really cool. It's fun to watch him. If I remember, I will try to link a video where he's explaining it, because he did, oh man, he did this sweater for this guy in Illinois. Okay, you know the Cubs, they have like such a reputation of no hope. And the last time that they had won the pennant was in 1908 when Frank Chance was the manager. And so this guy, he's a social studies teacher in high school in Illinois, and he sent us a picture of Frank Chance, and he said, I want a replica of his sweater. Oh, look, this is pretty. I like this. This might be wool. I'm not sure. It might be cotton, it might be wool. It's a really pretty brown anyway. Anyway, he wanted a replica of that sweater. So Bill made it for him. And since he was a social studies teacher, we made some videos that he could show his social studies classes when he was teaching the Industrial Revolution, where Bill demonstrated the machine from the 1890s and, you know, told how it works and showed them how it works and everything. And anyway, so he finished this sweater that was a replica of Frank Chance's sweater. And every time that the guy wore it, the Cubs won. And every time that he didn't wear it, the Cubs lost. And that year, they won the World Series. It was so fun. So we like to joke about how we can control the World Series by Bill's knitting. Same thing with elections. Bill makes these sweaters that have either a Republican donkey or, a Republican elephant or a Democrat donkey on it. and he sells them, and he keeps track of how many he sells of each one. And when he had a shop, he would have, you know, a wall that he kept track of it on. And anyway, every single big election, he has been able to predict by how many sweaters of each kind that he sold who's going to win. And back in 2016, he sold one more Republican sweater than he did Democrat sweater. And guess what? Republican barely won. It was a very close race. So anyway, so all that to say, you need to buy the right sweaters. We don't really feel like we're doing any magic or anything, but it's just kind of funny that it works out that way. Okay, I have this really pretty teal yarn, and I know that she likes teal, so we're going to give her some of that. Oops, again, I'm doing it from the wrong end. I'm going to cut that so that I don't do that again. So anyway, so he started out, he was a bank manager, and then I'm not really sure why. We've only been married for 4 years. He was previously married. He had a really wonderful marriage to his wife Beth, and they were married for 38 years, and then she passed away from breast cancer. And anyway, he was a bank manager, and then for some reason, which I've never been cleared of, he quit that job to be a yarn salesman, and he would travel all over the country selling yarn to different, you know, suppliers or manufacturers and stuff like that. Well, Beth knit. She was a real avid knitter and a really good knitter. She taught French in high school and was very fluent. And anyway, Perry Ellis approached her about knitting for him. And I'm not sure what she did first, if she knit garments for him or made patterns for him, but she ended up making patterns for him and knitting the prototypes for those, and you know, and making up the patterns. And then also she started making prototypes for different designers, and Bill got into it too because it just got to be so big, and so it was too much for her to do hand knitting, and so they bought some knitting machines, which at that time were hand operated. They weren't these electronic ones that you can program to do all kinds of fancy stuff and, you know, leave it overnight and then get up in the morning and you've got a sweater. They weren't like that. And they ended up hiring like a whole bunch of other people to knit for them too, using all these machines. And so they knit for a lot of different designers, like Perry Ellis and Bill Blass and Ralph Lauren. I can't remember who else. Anyway, a bunch of those designers, and he has some really fun stories about all that. And they also knit sweaters for like French Creek and a few other like catalogs and stuff. And then they decided to kind of retire. And okay, this is already wound together. That's fun. See how like a whole bunch of different strands, he's wound these together to make it thicker. What was I saying? Oh, so anyway, so they kind of retired, not really, but they closed down their business. I don't think they sold it. I think they just closed it down. And they moved to the eastern shore of Maryland, the eastern shore of the Chesapeake, and opened up a store there, just the two of them. Although, yeah, they did hire some help. But it was basically mainly the two of them. And they had a store that they called Chester River Knitting Company because the Chester River was right there. And so that was really successful for, I don't know, 30 years or so, I think. And then Bill remarried, and he still kept his store going for a while, but then he quit and he started doing real estate. And then when we got married, he decided he wanted to knit again. He really missed it. So we opened up an Etsy store for him that we still called Chester River Knitting Company because we were still living in Maryland. That looks pretty, doesn't it? Okay, and yeah, so he's been, you know, doing it all over again and kind of like rebuilding that business. But you know, he's slower now, and it's a little harder for him to keep up. So I don't think he'll ever fully give it up, but at least slowing down. I mean, like now we don't really take orders. We take a deposit for a waiting list, and then you know, when you get up to the top of the waiting list, then he'll take your order. I'm not sure what else to include. Oh. Some of this would be cool. Some of my leather stuff. So, yeah, so then we moved here to Tennessee, and we briefly opened up a shop in Tellico Plains. We didn't really open it to be a shop. It was because we were moving up to the mountains and there wasn't good enough internet up there. And so for me to do my job, because I teach online, and so I have to have good internet because I teach, you know, using video calls. And yeah, so there wasn't good enough internet up where we were moving, and so we decided that we needed to get a storefront in town. What did I do with that cardboard? I had some more of that cardboard here, and I'm not sure what I did with it. I needed to wrap this around. I'll keep looking while I'm talking. Anyway, so I was going to teach from there, so we were going to commute down there early in the morning every morning, which was going to be like crazy, because we do get some snow here, especially up in the mountains. And so that was just like a little insane. Okay, I'm going to keep talking, and I'll talk loudly while I look for a piece of cardboard that I can wrap this around. I thought that I had another piece. Here we go. So anyway, long story short, the deal fell through at the last minute, so we didn't move up there, although we moved all of our stuff up there. So we have like almost no furniture here, which in some ways is really nice. I mean, you know, you still have all your stuff, but the house that you're living in is almost empty is actually very nice. And so we've been living here with like almost nothing for the last year, which, like I said, has been nice, except for the refrigerator situation. We did without a refrigerator for 3 weeks while we just kind of figured out what we were doing. And then we bought one of those little dorm refrigerators. So that's what we use all the time, is a dorm refrigerator. And we had, after a while, he brought down, oh my gosh, what a tangled mess. He brought down our refrigerator from Maryland, and we didn't want to bring it all the way upstairs. Our main floor it's at street level on part of the house, but to get to it, you have to go up all these steps because we live on a hill. And so, you know, it's like, well, we didn't think we were going to be here for very long, so we just put it in the garage. Well, a few weeks ago, it gave up the ghost, and we lost a whole bunch of food that we had in it. And so now we're looking at buying a little chest freezer that we can keep upstairs. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of difficult. It's kind of like we're camping sometimes because we don't really have stuff, and sometimes we go up to the house specifically to look for things that we need. But it's, you know, no complaints. I think in some ways it's just really nice to live without having a lot of stuff, but having that stuff available to us if we want it. So it's kind of nice. So I don't know what I was saying. Oh, so anyway, so we had that store for a while, but we didn't really do anything with it. What else do I have that I can give her? I've got some lace that's coffee dyed. So I think I'll give that to her, which will make me go coffee dye my new lace. So yeah, so we weren't really doing anything with it because it was half an hour away from us. So it was, you know, a real pain to try to go there regularly. I mean, I already work a full-time job, and plus I, you know, I write books, and I have become majorly obsessed with junk journaling, which I could have done that at the shop. But you know, can you imagine having junk journals at a shop? I'm not sure how well that would work, because if people are handling them a lot, I'm just not sure that that would be, you know, if it's yours that you've bought, then you handle it carefully, but people in a shop, and especially children and stuff, I'm not sure that would have worked out well. What else can I give her? What do I have? Oh, I thought I had some ribbon. Yes, I have ribbon. Oh, and I have some other lace I can give her too. Yeah, so anyway, so then a couple months ago, he had what we thought was a stroke. It turned out not to be a stroke, thank goodness. But we are still finding out what it is. Anyway, so, you know, we were just looking at, we had way too much on our plates, and we weren't doing anything with this store. We loved the idea of this store, and there were things that we really wanted to do in the community up there. Like I wanted to have, you know, writers' workshops, especially for high schoolers and junior hires, and maybe even like for younger kids. And I wanted to start a book club and stuff like that. Okay, just a second. I thought of something else that I wanted to add, and now I can't remember what. What was it? Okay, well, I guess that's it. Okay, so we've got all these goodies, which will be fun for her to have. If I can keep them all wound up while I put them in. Yeah, so we ended up closing that just recently, which has actually been a real relief, because it was just a drain on us, both financially and time-wise. And, you know, we were looking at, okay, if we want to be serious about this, then we need to start commuting up there. Well, it's a half-hour commute each way, and that would just be crazy. Okay, so she can use that envelope however she wants to. Well, this is barely going to close now. Okay, I think that's cool. Those extra little fun things that she can use and however she wants to. Yeah, so I'm not really sure why I was telling you guys all this. Anyway, he's still knitting, but he has his machines up in our garage up at the house in the mountains, because the garage is going to be our workspace. We're never going to put our cars in there, and it's never had cars in it. The house was only partially built when we bought it, so no one's, well, there were, the builder and his wife were living in it, and then he passed away. And so it sat abandoned for about 8 years, and then we came along and bought it, and we're really looking forward to living up there. The view is so amazing. So anyway, I'm gonna stop now. I love you all. Thanks for just joining me and chatting with me and having fun. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.